Looks like Microsoft is already changing their tune on not raising any prices that they said in the middle of this year. They said just about a month and a half ago they might be raising the prices of consoles, Game Pass, or games in the near future. They said not for the holiday season, but it looks like Microsoft first-party games going forward will all be raised up to that $70 price point, matching companies like Take-Two, EA, and Sony. Hey everybody, LittleBobby here with 59 Gaming Direct, and we're going to be talking about an article published by IGN and written by Rebecca Valentine about Xbox raising its first-party titles to $70 in 2023. But before we do that, if you're new here, please hit that subscribe button, ring that notification bell so you can be sure to stay up to date with all the news, reviews, and other content we put out here on 59 Gaming Direct. Make sure you hit that like button if you enjoy this video, and hit that dislike and let us know what we can do better in the comments if you don't enjoy this video. All right, let's get into it. All right, Rebecca Valentine from IGN writes in an article titled Microsoft Raising Prices on New First-Party Games Built for Xbox Series XS to $70 in 2023. Rebecca writes, beginning in 2023, games built for Xbox Series X or S, including Forza Motorsport, Redfall, and Starfield, will cost $69.99 USD at launch. While Xbox has noted that regional pricing may differ, it is not yet given specifics for other countries. So, we now know that Xbox plans on raising the prices of its brand new games up to that $70 price point, which is kind of funny because, I mean, we've already discussed before that Phil Spencer, just like 6 months ago, said, hey, we don't need to raise prices. We're fine just charging what we charge. And now already they're going, hey, we're going to raise prices on all the games coming out next year. What I think is really the worst thing about this is that there's no slow build up to this. And I guess there couldn't be. There's not really any warning. But like, players of Xbox have not had a first-person AAA title in over a year, and it's going to be a number of months before any of these titles come out, Forza, Redfall, or Starfield. Now, pending the Xbox studios can get something out by March, that means that most players of Xbox will have gone 15-16 months without a first-party AAA game that they could buy, and then when they finally do get a game, they're getting charged $10 extra for it. Now, that's fine with me to pay the extra $10. Like I've said many times, I am fine with paying an extra $10. Games have been $60 since about 2005, and you know, the prices haven't gone up to reflect the costs. I'm okay with paying that extra $10. For me, the question comes down to how much is this extra $10 going to eat into Microsoft's sales? It's pretty well documented that anything that Microsoft releases on Game Pass does not sell as well as something that doesn't release on Game Pass. Right, we saw that Elden Ring, one of the most anticipated games in years, sold a ton of copies on Xbox, but if that game had been released day one on Game Pass, they would have absolutely lost out on most, if not all of those sales on the console. Because it always comes down to, hey, if I have to pay $60 or now $70 for this, am I going to do that when I could just pay like $10 a month if I'm on PC or $15 if I'm on console? Not to mention the fact that, if you just cancel for a month, they'll send you an email that says, hey, sign back up and we'll give you 3 months for $1. But while Elden Ring came out and sold strong because it wasn't available on Game Pass, we saw that Halo missed the mark in just about every way. We saw that report come out a few months ago that Halo had been considered an extreme financial disappointment for the Xbox brand and for Microsoft. And why is that? It's because it was available on Game Pass. I played the campaign, I played the multiplayer. The multiplayer is free, but a lot of people I know who loved Halo back in the day would have paid for that campaign had it not been on Game Pass. They would have at least bought it and gone like, well, you know what, I spent $60 on it. It wasn't very good, whatever. Or they would have loved it, who knows? But now that we're seeing the effect that Game Pass has, asking this $70 is going to get more people to just sign up for Game Pass, which we all know that's what Microsoft's end game is. They want as many people as possible on Game Pass. But we've seen the content that comes through Game Pass. If it's not an indie game, Game Pass is terrible for game studios. It's been well documented. Unless you're a studio that is, you're only going to get maybe 30 to 50,000 sales without that Xbox like promotion, then you're absolutely going to have a bad time with Game Pass. There was an article recently where Activision stated very clearly that, hey, if we were not being bought out by Microsoft and Xbox, our games would never be on Game Pass because we do not feel like that is conducive to a healthy game industry. Now, we all know what kind of a joke it is for Activision to be talking about healthy game industry stuff, but their point still stands, and most big developers have said the same thing, that they feel that Xbox and Game Pass is really, really not a great thing for the entire industry, right? Think about this. If Xbox Game Pass is what most people buy on, people don't actually buy the games. So the games are going to bring in less actual money because those subs aren't going to pay for every single game that's being made. So the games in return have to be put out quicker because Microsoft doesn't want to pay for all that extensive development time. They also don't want to pay for all those expensive developers. So there's going to be less developers with less time working on Game Pass titles, especially first party ones. Things like Starfield, yeah, they're getting the time now, but if Starfield doesn't do well, what happens to Bethesda? Does Bethesda get rushed to put out Elder Scrolls 6? Because, hey, you obviously had all that time and you didn't do the best job you could. Why should we give you time on Elder Scrolls 6? Why should we give you years to develop? Let's get this done and out because it's obviously not going to be great. You're not going to get us great review scores. It's not going to sell a ton because we're putting it on Game Pass first day. We're going to lose money on it anyway. We just need more stuff for the machine to feed the machine. And this is the Microsoft way of thinking. And this is why so many people have had a problem with Microsoft trying to buy Activision, right? Taking a franchise that's as well loved as Call of Duty, trying to make it exclusive, trying to make it into that Game Pass AAA fodder. It's not going to be good for Call of Duty. I just hate to say it. And that's not to say that Call of Duty is the strongest franchise. It's certainly not as strong as it was, despite Modern Warfare 2 doing well. Call of Duty used to be just like a blockbuster year after year after year, and now it's like every third year people are like, yeah, this is great, and then the 2 years where they release something in between, they're like, oh, that was okay, I bought it because it's Call of Duty, I guess. But the thing about this is, Microsoft spokesperson said the price reflects the content scale and technical complexity of these titles, which I have not seen. Like the content, I mean, look at Halo. Halo has zero content after a year. They just released Forge so that the community could make their own content. That's how content deprived Halo is. Not to mention that the creative director of Halo multiplayer just stepped away from his position. It's becoming really clear that the effect of Game Pass and the effect of Xbox's practices have been nothing but negative. We've seen none of their studios deliver anything for a year. They're trying to buy out the largest third-party publisher in the world so that they can have those IPs to make exclusive to Game Pass to keep that Game Pass machine running. And the fact that Game Pass leads to a reduced number of sales means that there will be a reduction in quality whether you like it or not. You could say that Game Pass is the best deal in gaming, but when you're paying for a subscription for stuff that's all not very good, that's exactly what happened with Netflix, and that's exactly why their subscriber numbers have had huge drop-offs the last few years. We've also already seen Phil Spencer admitting to Microsoft's Xbox Game Pass basically capping out when it comes to consoles, right? Everyone who has a console who wants Game Pass basically already has it. And those few that don't have Game Pass for Xbox, I salute you, because like I'm a person who's like, hey, buy your games. Even if a game is free, right? Even if it's day one, I went out and bought a copy of Stray recently because that is one of my favorite games of the year. And I saw that it was available in a physical copy at my local Best Buy, so I bought it. But that is not happening at a sustainable rate for people who play their games through Game Pass. Most people who play their games through Game Pass literally just go, hey, I'm going to play it. I'm going to play it as much as I want because it's always going to be on Game Pass. And then even when it leaves Game Pass, they go, oh, well, I guess I'm just done with that game. You have an expectation being set that anyone with Game Pass is never going to have to pay for a AAA title again, at least if they're just an Xbox player. And that's an unhealthy expectation to set up because we know that devs' jobs and devs' bonuses and things like that all rely on sales numbers. Microsoft is basically undercutting those at every turn by offering certain games through Game Pass and then turning around stating, hey, we have to raise game prices to $70, which is just going to drive more people to Game Pass, which is then going to lead more people to simply not buying games. And it's going to be this vicious cycle on the Xbox side where they're going to spend all this money making these games and no one's going to actually buy them. They're just going to play them on Game Pass and then be done with them. On top of that, here's the thing that really concerns me, because Xbox has already said, hey, we need to raise prices on our games, and they've said we're not going to be able to keep our prices on anything the same forever. My thing that I assume happens from this point is that Xbox raises the price of Game Pass to $20 or $25 a month within the next 12 months. And you might think, Bobby, that's a little ridiculous, but look at it this way. They were the ones who already said, oh, we're not going to be raising any prices, don't worry about that, less than 6 months ago, and now they're just coming out flat and saying, hey, we haven't put out a single first-party title in a year, but the next time we do put out one, if you're interested in playing it, it's going to cost you $70 if you want to buy it. Or hey, you know what? You could get locked into this subscription with us, and hey, it's cheaper that way. But once they have so many people on a subscription, It's the frog in the pot, right? If you put a frog in water and you boil it there, it's gonna just sit there until it cooks. That's gonna be what happens with Game Pass members. The price is gonna go up. It's gonna go up by $5 or $10, and they're not gonna really look. But then you gotta look and go, well, if the price goes up by $5, that's every 4 months I'm effectively buying a game. But you don't own it because they can take that service away from you at any time, and they can take whatever games you are playing away from you at any time. Not only by letting deals expire, but also by just banning your account. That happened to my brother years ago. Fortunately, he got his PlayStation account back. It took him about a month though, but he almost lost hundreds and hundreds of dollars that he had spent on games and microtransactions and things like that. What I really doubt we'll see, and what Microsoft is really taking the bath on, is the consoles. Why? Because a Game Pass box, right? Let's be real here. That's what an Xbox Series S is. It's a Game Pass box that maybe you get some of the older titles you downloaded on your 360 on. But that entry point, that $300 box, they need that to get people coming into the ecosystem, because they're going to go, oh, hey, you know what? All you got to do is pay $20 a month and then you get hundreds of games. Oh, okay, cool. That sounds fine. If I pay this and then I just pay that, well, I guess that's okay. Well, quickly the price is going to go from, what is it now, $180 a year to maybe $240, or what about $300 a year? That's another Xbox Series S every year just to rent games, right? Something we used to do back in my day. You used to go to a store to do it, but you would do it and you would return those games and it would cost you like $2.99 per game. Sure, you only got to do it for a weekend, but you would play through that game, so it was fine. Basically, what we're seeing here is Microsoft taking the quote-unquote anti-consumer stance that they just railed on Sony about a few months ago, and they're just running with it, going, hey, you know what? We know that our fans will let us do this. Sony's fans let them do this, so our fans will let us do this. But we're going to also make sure we have this option so that they never even get to own their games, and we're going to make that look like the more attractive offer. Personally, I own tons of games, but I do not buy a ton of games day one. You can always buy games on sale later on down the line, and especially third-party games, those tend to go down much quicker than first-party. And I've even seen like Halo Infinite for like $40 this holiday. And remember, that's just paying for the extremely lackluster campaign. And I'm not saying Last of Us Part 1 is going to be worth $70 for people. I saw that also for $40 and $50, but that came out 3 months ago as opposed to a year ago, right? These first-party titles tend to not drop as much. But if we continue seeing Microsoft play this game where they accuse Sony of doing something bad and then they go and do something just as bad, if not worse, I can't in good conscience like even want them to succeed anymore, because I've always said, like, Microsoft, the reason I dump on Microsoft so much is because they give me reason. They don't offer up good quality products like they should. They used to do that in the 360 era, and since the Xbox One came out, they've been dead in the water in terms of their like creativity and bringing out the best of their IPs or creating new IPs. I remember when Xbox was like the king. You would go home and play your Xbox 360 because that's what you wanted to be on, because it had the best games and the best stuff to offer. But Xbox doesn't have that anymore. Now they're trying to serve you up 2,000 mediocre games and tell you, hey, this is the same as like getting Halo 3 back in the day. Trust us, Halo Infinite does not feel the same as Halo 3. Halo Infinite's story was boring, the world was terrible. They have not added anything to it like they said that they were going to. They said that both the PvE and PvP were going to be like living worlds that were going to evolve over 10 years, and the PvE, the campaign, has just been dead. There's been nothing done to it. There hasn't even been talk about it. The PvP has been floundering. It's not dead, but it's pretty close. And unlike something like Destiny 2, where, you know, this season it's been a big talking point in that community that they're losing numbers, tons of people aren't playing it anymore, blah, blah, blah. I know, me personally, I've been taking a break because I tend to do that around this time, like the third season of a year. And I know a lot of people do too. But the next season that's coming out, it's going to come out and tons of people are going to go back to it, and they're going to stick with it for at least half the season. Halo Infinite, on the other hand, just had their big winter update a few weeks ago. The player population from its high point already dropped about 50%, at least on Steam charts. I can guarantee you that the Xbox charts drop exactly the same way, just because the Steam charts usually track. Steam gamers are hardcore gamers, and if they are playing Halo, they will be on some Halo. But enough rambling about that. What do you think about this price raise for Microsoft, and what do you think it's going to lead to? Is the next price raise going to be Game Pass, or is it going to be consoles? Personally, I think it's going to be Game Pass, because that's the thing they know they have most people hooked in with, and if they get that Game Pass box into your hands cheap, and they can keep doing that and taking the loss on that, that means that they're going to be able to get that Game Pass price up and up and up slowly year over year until they're charging you probably half the price of a game per month, and you still go, hey, you know, it's okay, because that's just like buying 6 games a year, except you never own them. So I'm LittleBobby here with 5-9 Gaming Direct. Thank you so much for watching today. Let us know what you think about this Xbox price increase down in the comments below, and make sure you subscribe if you enjoyed this video and hit that notification button. Thank you so much again for watching, and we hope to see you soon.